another day, and welcome everyone to Cloud's Cottage, my channel. Today we'll be listening and reading together Butterfly Ring by Silent Tales on AO3. And before we begin, I would like to invite you all to help the channel by subscribing, liking or sharing this video. Anyways, back to the video. Chapter 8. You swore you would stay by my side. It seems as though the search for Rambo's family has been unsuccessful so far. Chibo says. His Majesty says that he is free to stay at the palace for as long as he wishes for, and is looking for people to serve him on a permanent basis. Tommy pinches the bridge of his nose. Majority of the foreign guests have already arrived at the palace, and he is getting sick of dodging their questions about the shy young man lurking around the eastern wing. He was hoping that Rambo would be out of his hair before the start of the celebrations. How endlessly naive that was of him. For all we know, Rambo could be an orphan, and this all has been pointless from the very start. Tommy says dryly. The quill in his hand threatens to snap and join a bunch of others already thrown into the trash can. Or, perhaps, Rambo is lying about his memory problems to take advantage of His Majesty's kindness. A crack of lightning runs across the night sky. Candles and lamps flicker, their light momentarily mixing in with a white flash, and then it's back to normal again. Tommy listens to the hum of the rain behind the closed windows. He counts 6 seconds before the thunder comes. Rambo's telling the truth, Your Highness, Chibo says, in an unexpectedly defensive tone that makes Tommy glance up and frown. He gets nightmares about his memories. I've seen him afterwards. It's not something that can be faked, is it? Tommy clenches his fists tighter under the desk. He doesn't know why he'd expected Tubo to take his side, given how close he and Rambo had become. Tommy isn't blind. He sees two figures flashing in the corner of his vision, and hears their laughter, so clear and full of life that it hurts. Hurts that he can't remember the last time Tubo sounded as happy. And that it's not Tommy who he shares his happiness with. It hurts that the moment Tubo's eyes fall on Tommy, he pretends not to see him and rushes to lead Rambo away. Why are you defending him? It's not as much a question as it's a warning. Tubo deflates, but doesn't look away even as Tommy's eyes bore into him harshly. Rambo's nice, he says. Sure, he might not understand how things work in the palace, but he means no harm. No harm? Tommy laughs bitterly. Did you even hear the rumors going around about me? Tommy thought that he and the Emperor were keeping their tones low enough during the argument. But in the palace, everything has ears. From the paintings on the walls to every bush in the gardens large enough to hide a particularly curious individual. Whatever the original rumor has been, in a span of a week, it was molded and twisted until everyone was talking about how the Emperor scolded the Crown Prince like a Misbehaving child. It wasn't Rambo's fault that Price Wilbur stole the credit for your tea party, Chuba insists. And maybe he didn't make me look like a villain in His Majesty's eyes by retelling him of that stupid incident? Rambo didn't, Chuba says. I did. It takes a moment for Tubo's words to settle in. And when they do, it feels like lightning had struck him. Suddenly, it makes sense why Tubo looked so guilty during the tea party, and avoided looking into Tommy's eyes afterwards. The feeling of betrayal digs its claws into Tommy's chest. Tubo stands before him, his head dipped, shoulders spiking up to his ears, and waiting for his next words. But what could Tommy even say? He thought he was already over that incident, but the anger bubbling in his veins proves otherwise. Why? He grits out. Tubo grips his hands in front of himself. It wasn't right of you to treat Rambo that way, he says. It wasn't right of you to talk about me behind my back. Tom stands up, the chair screeching against the floor. What other alternative did I have? Tubo snaps. You wouldn't listen to me. You never do. Tommy feels like shouting, from anger, or frustration, or both. But the way Tubo looks at him, sad and defeated, makes words die on his tongue. If he starts yelling now, it will be nearly impossible to stop. Tommy doesn't want anyone to overhear the arguments and stir up new rumors about him. He doesn't want to say anything he might regret later. Tommy's jaw clicks shut. Get out. You heard me, Tommy says, sitting back down on his chair. This is no way to treat your Price. Leave now, and don't bother showing up again until you learn to watch your tongue. Under Tommy's thorny glance, Tubo cowers. His lips move, but no sound comes out. In the old times, he might have yelled at Tommy, threw a pillow at him, or maybe something heavier. But now he swallows down the anger and avoids the Prince's gaze. I apologize, Your Highness. I overstepped. Tommy forces himself to look away before Tubo can get a glimpse of the guilt brewing inside. You're dismissed, he says. Sleep doesn't come to Tommy that night. He rolls around, trying to find a comfortable position, but normally soft and cozy blankets feel like sandpaper to his skin. Tommy throws them away with a long groan, and his eyes fall on a nightstand drawer to his left. He stretches an arm to open it, but hesitates and pulls himself to his feet instead. The key turns in his hand, locking the door with a soft click. Only when Tommy makes sure that the handle doesn't budge does he return to the drawer and pull something fluffy and yellow out of it. The Imperial family started preparing for Techno and Wilbur's 18th birthday, a month in advance. Their parents were to present them a pair of purebred foals, brought from Balance specifically for the occasion. Tommy Covey asked for money to buy something similarly expensive, but he wanted his gift to be special, something from Tommy himself, so he got a little bit more creative. Queen Nikki, Princess Nikki at the time, was surprised to see Tommy on her doorstep. As soon as the flustered young Price had explained, stuttering, that he wanted to make a surprise for his brothers, she bloomed with a smile and agreed to help. Their knitting lessons were kept a firm secret, and by the end of the month, Tom's gift was ready. Truth to be told, it turned out much worse than Tommy hoped for. For one, he only had the time and the patience to finish one of the sweaters, with the stitches all hopelessly crooked and barely giving the fabric any shape, one sleeve noticeably shorter than the other, and a chocolate stain on the back from that one time Tony thought it'd be a good idea to have a snack while knitting. It was possibly the ugliest article of clothing to ever exist. Yet, Tommy was so proud, presenting his gift with eyes shining brighter than icy mountain peaks under the afternoon sun. Techno got one glimpse of the monstrosity that Tommy was trying to shove into his hands and graciously conceded the sweater wholly to his twin, and Wilbur was delighted. He brushed the soft fabric tenderly, carefully, like it was pure silk, asking again and again whether it was Tommy who made the sweater. Tommy confirmed it, and Wilbur threatened to cry on spot. He didn't. And instead, he put the sweater over his head and announced that he's never going to put it off again. Their parents were amused when they saw Wilbur. He marched through the corridors, Tommy trailing him with his chest puffed up and his head raised high. The nobles threw rady glances at the crown prince when he showed up, wearing the same sweater on the celebratory banquet. People genuinely wondered if Wilbur found it in a dumpster, or warped a torn blanket around his shoulders. But Wilbur didn't care, because it was Tommy, his baby brother, who made it. For 3 years of Wilbur's absence, his room remained almost untouched. Frozen on that fateful day, he decided to leave the palace. Tommy visited the room often, and every little detail bore sharply into his memory. A coin covered in dust, glinting jewel gold from where it was dropped under the window, paintings rolled down from the walls, their frames cracked in half, but most importantly, a yellow sweater discarded on the bed. Tommy still remembers that night, exactly 3 weeks into Wilbur's disappearance, without the Emperor's ever calming but stern presence, and with the Emperor too busy trying to keep the country from falling apart. Nobles hardly cared to watch their tongues. They were afraid of Techno, but Tommy's presence wasn't acknowledged at all, and it was only a matter of time before he started listening closely to their whispered words. My servant's brother works at the docks. Prince Wilbur was seen there, bribing a foreign captain to take him aboard. They say that the ship crashed in a storm. A disgrace to die as a runaway traitor. The Emperor should disown him, while he is still not officially declared dead. That will save the imperial family's reputation. Higawa was coming for him. Tommy didn't listen to them much longer. He started shouting, screeching on top of his lungs as he demanded all them to shut up. Wilbur will be back, he wouldn't abandon me. Some people laughed and pointed fingers. Others looked at him with pity, and Tommy wasn't sure whether it hurt less or more. He ran away, unseen and unheard, tears spilling from his eyes. Tommy cried and wept and sobbed, lost in his grief and sorrow. He wanted to be left alone, wanted for the whole world to disappear if only it meant that he will get his brother back. And in a way, his wish came true. because Techno peeked out of Wilbur's room. Tommy didn't think twice before throwing himself into Techno's arms. At that point, he was in full-on hysterics. Not a single comprehensive thought, but only a growing crack in his very heart and soul. Techno made a noise of surprise that turned to something sad and wounded as he scooped Tommy up into his arms and carried him inside. When Tommy ran away from the gallery, it was noon, but when he finally started coming back to his senses, the sky outside already turned black. He found himself turked under Techno's chin, the two of them sitting in silent darkness. It took Tommy a while to realize that he was pressing Wilbur's sweater to his chest in one hand while the other one had a deathly grip on Techno's arm. It must be been downright painful with how deep Tommy's nails dug into it. But Techno didn't say a word, only rubbed soothing circles into Tommy's back. Tommy should let go, but couldn't bring himself to. He believed, with the childish sorts of hope, that as long as he keeps on holding, nothing bad can happen to either of them. That maybe, just maybe, it will be enough to stop Techno from living like Wilbur did. Do you think that Wilbur's going to be alright? Tommy muttered. For a long moment, Techno didn't respond. When he talked, his voice wavered. To the degree, Tommy was barely able to make out of the words. I like to think so. Something wet dripped from Techno's face and onto Tommy's cheek. Techno's crying, he realized, and that thought was more startling than any lightning could ever be. His eyes, tired and swollen, peered into Tommy's lost expression, and the only indication that something was wrong were the tears flowing down to his chin and his hoarse, raged breathing. It was then that Tommy thought how much worse it'd been for Techno. He and Wilbur might have been close, but Wilbur is Techno's twin. When it was then three, Tommy was always the third wheel, the less fitting, extra, and that was part of the reason he used to cling to Mother so much. When she died, part of Tommy died too, and now Techno was going through the same thing. They were both broken halves of something else, of something more, and now left adrift and alone. They had no other choice but to try and see if their edges would fit. I know Wilbur, Techno said. His hands brushed the back of Tommy's neck, with his skin covered in healing scars from training, scratching, and tough. Techno's touch wasn't as soft or gentle as Wilbur's, but in his embrace, Tommy felt warm and safe. Tommy hugged Techno tighter. You don't have to be. When Tommy closed his eyes, he is in his own room again. Techno is gone, and the only reminder of the memory that just replayed in his mind is the sweater he buries his nose into. It's been 6 years since he had carried it out of Wilbur's room and hid it away in a drawer that none of the servants are allowed to touch. If there is any smell left on the warm yellow fabric, it will be dust and Tommy's own sweat. Another lightning momentarily breaks the darkness of the world outside. On the balcony, a winged shape lands. Tommy leaps to his feet and throws the door open just as the thunder explodes in his ears. "Bryce!" The bird quacks out a greeting, shivering. He looks almost guilty as Tommy rushes to him with a noise of worry. "Did your owner send you in this weather?" During the 5 seconds, Tommy grabs the bird and carries him inside. The rain soaks his hair and clothes wet. He can only imagine how cold and exhausted Bryce must be. Tommy looks around in search of something to warp him in, and his eyes fall on the sweater on the bed. There is a slightest moment of hesitation. A step aside, his fingers curling and uncurling. But then Bryce sneezes, and Tommy hurries to put the sweater on him. Bryce tilts his head, his eyes wide, as his head is pulled over the neck hole. Squawk? "It fits you better than it did Wilbur," Tommy reassures, setting the bird down in front of the burning hearth, building into the far wall of the room. Tommy throws a few more logs into it, belatedly realizing that his own feet are freezing from walking out on the wet marble just a few minutes ago. That's how they both end bundled up in blankets. Tommy sits on a thick rug with his legs stretched towards the fire, and Bryce dozes in his hands. Tommy rubs his feathers until they are completely dry, and only then reaches for the note attached to his leg. "Shall we make a bet? The first one to find the other wins." Tommy puts Bryce down, bundled up in the sweater. He tries his best not to wake him up, but the parrot still cracks an eye open and yawns. Tommy can't stop his face from melting to smile. "I'm going to write a reply," he says, standing up. The blanket, too long and heavy, drags behind him like one of Technoscape's. Tommy picks up a paper and thinks for a moment about his answer. What would we bet on? Bryce manages to wiggle out of the sweater. He flies through the room and lands on Tommy's shoulder, peering up close to the desk as if trying to read his reply. Stretching his leg, Bryce looks like he's suggesting Tommy to tie the note to it. Tommy throws a glance over his shoulder. The rain is still lashing against the windows. Tommy wouldn't forgive himself if he let Bryce outside and the parrot got sick or lost. "I can't let you out while it's still raining," he says. "You can stay the night here, and then I will send you back in the morning. Hey!" Bryce fluffs up his feathers and snatches the note out of Tommy's hand. Tommy yelps and tries to grab it back, but the parrot is surprisingly fast. In a blink, he is near the window. Tommy almost gets a heart attack, assured that Bryce will escape, until he sees him lunging at the handle uselessly with a noise of frustration growling in his throat. "That is, my friend, what thumbs are for," Tommy says, sliding up a chair to him. "If birds can look unimpressed, then this one certainly does." Bryce hops up on Tommy's shoulder and picks on his hair with his beak. "You're in my haircut," Tommy pounces. Bryce lets out a parrot equivalent of evil laughter. Tommy reaches to rub the parrot's neck. Bryce puts his beak on top of Tommy's head with a contented thrill, and his mind turns into a mush of soft cools and unshed tears of tenderness. Animals are easy to get attached to, and in the long list of all the animals Tommy has ever cared for, Prince races to get to the top list. Just less than a month ago, he couldn't have imagined of meeting a bird this smart and empathetic, let alone making friends with it. With the tension that the past few weeks have brought into Tommy's life, Prince's visits are a relief, short breaks that allow him to catch a breath and give him something to look forward to. I wish I had a bird like you, Tommy sighs. Maybe I can try searching for a similar species on the market, or buy myself a fledgling to raise. Prince doesn't like that idea. Tommy knows it when his ear gets bitten, not hard enough to bleed, but enough for the point to get across. You're right. They still won't be like you. Besides, it's not like I've got a lot of spare time to spend on a pet. He is alright with this. Prince visiting him from time to time and maybe staying for the night like today. He goes to the wardrobe to change into something dry and more comfortable, and when he returns, he finds the bird on the bed, sitting on a pillow with his wings folded. Tommy lies down, bringing the blankets halfway up. He pats on the space between himself and the pillow, suggesting Prince to come closer. The parrot tilts his head and unceremoniously climbs up on Tommy's chest. Only cats are allowed to do that. You're not a cat, and you're too fat. Tommy shoves Prince off. The parrot rolls over and stays lying on his back, his feet pointing up comically. Quite plain dead, too. I can see you breathing. Despite his scolding, Tommy's lips tug up. Prince finally settles down, curled up into an adorable ball next to his shoulder. Somewhere along the process of Tommy patting his hand and the parrot cooing back, both of them fall into a gentle embrace of sleep. When Tommy wakes up, Prince perches on the frame of the open window. The rain has stopped, but its smell stays in the morning air that flows into the room and bites at Tommy's face with coldness. Still sleepy, and eyes not quite agreeing to open yet, the crown prince stumbles over to the parrot. You're back already? Yes, rubbing Prince's neck. Prince looks smug, his feathers fluffed up and eyes full of triumph. Rounds off opening the window, Tommy guesses, and a new knot tied to his leg. Prince shall be the prize. Tommy glances up. Your owner wants to offer you? Prince blinks a bit, in a brightened lightning. The color of his eyes seems closer to grass than emerald. Tommy scratches an arm and Prince hops onto it, flapping his wings, and doesn't protest, as a gentle hand brushes soft feathers on his back. If Prince was Tommy's, he would never even thinking about letting him go. Then why is his owner so ready to hand him over a simple bet? Tommy does want to have Prince. He said it just yesterday in front of the parrot himself. But the idea of revealing his name to his pen pal doesn't appeal to him at all. The whole reason Tommy started responding to the letters was that he and Prince's owner are strangers. Felt comfortable knowing that the author keeps answering not because of his status, but for the sole purpose of talking to him. The moment they learn each other's names, this simple relationship will turn into an exchange of empty formalities, if it will continue to exist at all. Shall we lie to your honor? Tom winks at Bryce, picking up a quill. Bryce makes a choked sound that turns into a wheezing laughter as he takes a peek at Tom's notes. Hint, I'm a woman.